I was arranging dried lavender in mason jars when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Portland General Hospital. My hands went cold. Mrs. Harrison? This is Dr. Patel. Your daughter Sophie is here in the ER. She's stable now, but what happened? I dropped the lavender. Purple buds scattered across my kitchen table. She was found unconscious in Forest Park. A jogger called 911. Mrs. Harrison, she has injuries consistent with assault, fractured ribs, severe bruising. But there's something else. He paused. She's 26 weeks pregnant. The baby appears fine, but Sophie keeps saying something about her mother-in-law. She's asking for you. I grabbed my keys. My daughter. My Sophie. 26 weeks pregnant. And I hadn't even known. The drive to Portland from my home in Beaverton took 17 minutes. I made it in 11. Sophie lay in the hospital bed, her dark hair matted against the pillow. Her face, oh God, her face was swollen and bruised. Her arm was in a cast. When she saw me, tears spilled down her cheeks. Mom. Her voice came out in a rasp. I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I took her hand carefully, avoiding the IV line. Told me what, sweetheart? About the baby. About Diane. About everything. She winced as she tried to sit up. Where's Ryan? Ryan, her husband of 3 years. I hadn't seen him in months. I don't know, honey. The hospital called me. What happened? Who did this to you? Sophie's eyes filled with fresh tears. Diane, Ryan's mother. She found out about the baby last week. She came to the house yesterday while Ryan was at work. Her breathing became rapid. Mom, she said my Vietnamese blood would contaminate the Thornton family line. She said her grandchild couldn't have Asian features. She wanted me to Sophie couldn't finish. My own mother had escaped Saigon in 1975, pregnant with me. She'd built a life here from nothing. She'd taught me that our heritage was something to cherish, not hide. And now this woman, this Diane Thornton, had beaten my pregnant daughter because of it. Where is she now? I kept my voice steady, but inside, something ancient and fierce was waking up. I don't know. After she hit me, she and Ryan's brother Kyle threw me in their car. They drove me to Forest Park and left me there. Diane said if I ever came back, if I ever tried to claim the baby, she'd finish what she started. She said Ryan would never believe me, that she'd already told him I ran off with someone else. And Ryan? Where is he in all this? Sophie's face crumpled. He's on a business trip in Chicago. He doesn't know. Mom, you have to believe me, Ryan loves me. He doesn't know what his mother is capable of. She's always been so charming around him, but when he's not there, she gripped my hand. You can't tell anyone. Diane has connections. Her brother is the district attorney. Her best friend is married to the police chief. She told me no one would believe me over her. A nurse came in to check Sophie's vitals. I stepped into the hallway and called the one person I knew could help. My sister Helen answered on the second ring. Margaret? It's 7 a.m. I need you. Sophie's in the hospital. It's bad. I'm on my way. Helen arrived 30 minutes later, still in her yoga pants and sweatshirt. She took one look at Sophie and her face hardened. Helen had been a prosecutor for 20 years before retiring last year. If anyone knew how to navigate the legal system, it was her. After Sophie told her story again, Helen pulled me aside. This is serious. Assault, kidnapping, attempted murder potentially. But Sophie's right, Diane Thornton's brother is DA Matthew Thornton. He's ambitious, ruthless, and he protects his family. Going through normal channels could backfire. So what do we do? Helen's eyes held the same steel they'd had in her courtroom days. Remember what Dad used to say? When the house is burning, you don't wait for the fire department to discuss procedures. You save your family first, then you make sure it never burns again. Our father had been a firefighter for 30 years. He died 5 years ago, but his lessons lived on. We gather evidence, Helen continued. We build an airtight case, and we find allies they don't expect. Over the next 2 days, while Sophie recovered in the hospital, Helen and I worked. She had contacts from her prosecutor days, people who owed her favors, people who didn't like the Thornton family's stranglehold on Portland's power structure. We discovered Diane Thornton's pristine reputation had cracks. 3 previous daughters-in-law, all minorities, all marriages ended in divorce. One had a restraining order that mysteriously disappeared from public records. Another left the state entirely. The third refused to talk but sent Helen a cryptic email. Check the Thornton Foundation finances. Helen called in a favor from a forensic accountant she'd worked with on white-collar cases. Give me 3 days, he said. Ryan finally came home from Chicago on day 3. We were in Sophie's hospital room when he burst through the door. Sophie! Oh my God, Sophie. He rushed to her bedside. His face was haggard, eyes red. I came as soon as I heard. My mother said you'd left me, that you'd cleaned out our bank account and run off. But I knew something was wrong. That's not you. I hired a private investigator and he tracked you to the hospital. Sophie stared at her husband. And you believed her? Even for a second? No. I mean, I didn't want to. But she seemed so sure, so worried. She said she saw you with another man, that you'd admitted to an affair. He stopped as he saw her cast, her bruises. Jesus Christ, who did this to you? Your mother did. The silence was deafening. Ryan's face went white. That's impossible. My mother wouldn't. Your mother threw me in the woods to die because I'm pregnant with your contaminated baby. Sophie's voice was ice. Your mother and Kyle beat me, drove me to Forest Park, and left me there because my Vietnamese blood isn't good enough for the Thornton family line. Sophie, no. You must be confused. You hit your head. Maybe you don't remember correctly. I stood up. Ryan, I understand this is hard to believe, but look at your wife. Really look at her. Do you think she did this to herself? Helen stepped forward. Mr. Thornton, I'm Sophie's aunt, Helen Wynne. I was a prosecutor for 20 years. I've seen a lot of cases. This bears all the hallmarks of assault and kidnapping. Now, you can either believe your wife, or you can leave this room and never come back. But choose quickly, because we're filing a police report within the hour. Ryan looked between us, then back at Sophie. She's my mother, and she's my wife. Our baby. Sophie placed a hand on her belly. If you can't see that, Ryan, then maybe your mother was right about one thing: this marriage is over. Something shifted in Ryan's face. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Mom, it's me. I'm at the hospital. I need you to come here right now. Sophie's here. No, I don't want to hear it. Get here, now. 40 minutes later, Diane Thornton swept into the hospital room like she owned it. She was exactly what I'd expected. Perfectly coiffed blonde hair, designer clothes, that particular brand of smile that wealthy white women use as armor. Ryan, darling, why are we wasting time here? We need to file a missing persons report for the money she stole. She stopped when she saw Sophie. For just a second, genuine surprise crossed her face. You're supposed to be dead, she whispered. Excuse me? Ryan stepped toward his mother. Diane recovered quickly. I'm surprised you're here. You look terrible. Ryan, this woman clearly needs psychiatric help. She's probably on drugs, that's why the baby. Stop. Ryan's voice was cold. Sophie told me what you did. And you believe her? Ryan, I'm your mother. I've protected you your whole life. This woman, this immigrant girl, she trapped you with a pregnancy. She's after the Thornton money. She's my wife. And you put her in the hospital. Diane laughed. It was a brittle, cruel sound. Prove it. It's her word against mine. And who do you think the police will believe? The respected Thornton family, or some Asian girl claiming abuse? She turned to me. You must be the mother. You should teach your daughter to know her place. The Thornton bloodline has been pure for generations. We're not going to let some Mrs. Thornton. Helen's voice cut through the room like a blade. I'm Helen Wynne, Sophie's aunt and a former prosecutor. I want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. You're admitting that you assaulted my niece because of her ethnicity? I'm not admitting anything. And you have no proof. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, we do. A man in his 50s entered, holding a briefcase. He had the calm demeanor of someone who'd spent years in courtrooms. I'm Thomas Chen, with the FBI's Civil Rights Division. We've been investigating the Thornton family for several months based on a pattern of racially motivated harassment and assault. 3 previous incidents involving family members. This is the 4th. Diane's face went from smug to panicked. You can't, my brother is the district attorney. Your brother is about to have his own problems, Helen said. Tell her, Tom. Thomas Chen opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder. The Thornton Foundation, which your family controls, has been embezzling donor funds for the past 6 years. Approximately $3.8 million has been diverted to offshore accounts. We have records, testimony from whistleblowers, and a very cooperative accountant who was tired of cooking your books. That's ridiculous. You can't prove. We can. And here's what's going to happen. Chen's voice was steel. You're going to confess to assaulting Sophie Thornton. You're going to turn yourself in. Because if you don't, we're going to charge you with attempted murder, kidnapping, and federal hate crimes. And we're going to bring charges against your son Kyle as an accomplice. And then we're going to prosecute the embezzlement case against your entire family, including your daughter and your brother, the DA, who signed off on several of those fraudulent transfers. Diane looked at Ryan. Tell them to leave. Tell them I'm your mother and you stand with family. Ryan looked at Sophie, then at his mother. You're not my family anymore. She is. This baby is. 2 police officers entered the room. Not the chief's department, state police. Chen had called them. Diane Thornton was arrested that afternoon. Kyle was picked up an hour later. The news broke that evening. Thornton family scandal. Civil rights investigation reveals pattern of abuse and financial fraud. Matthew Thornton, the DA, resigned within 48 hours. The governor appointed a special prosecutor for the embezzlement case. Sophie stayed in the hospital for another week. Ryan never left her side. He'd filed for legal emancipation from his family and started cooperating with the FBI investigation. It turned out Diane had been controlling him through a family trust, threatening to cut him off if he didn't obey her demands. He'd never known about her treatment of his previous sisters-in-law. She'd been careful to hide it. Helen and I sat with Sophie the day before her discharge. I still can't believe it's over, Sophie said, that she's actually going to face consequences. It's not over yet, Helen cautioned. The trial will be long, but Tom says they have enough evidence to guarantee a conviction. Diane's looking at 15 to 20 years for the assault and kidnapping. The embezzlement could add another decade. And Kyle? 8 to 10 years as an accomplice. He's trying to cut a deal, but Tom's not budging. I held Sophie's hand. Your grandmother would be proud of you. She survived a war to build a life here. You survived this. And you're going to raise your baby in a world where people like Diane Thornton can't win anymore. Sophie's ultrasound was that afternoon. Ryan held her hand as the technician moved the wand across her belly. Everything looks perfect, the technician said. Would you like to know the sex? Yes, Sophie and Ryan said together. It's a girl. Sophie started crying. Ryan kissed her forehead. Can we name her after your grandmother? He asked. I never got to meet her, but I want our daughter to carry that strength. Mai, Sophie whispered. Her name was Mai. 3 months later, I was in Sophie and Ryan's living room in their new house they'd moved out of the Thornton estate when my granddaughter was born. She came into the world screaming, with a full head of black hair and her mother's determination. Helen and I took turns holding her in the hospital. Look at her, Helen said. Perfect little Mai. She has no idea what her mother went through to protect her. She'll know, I said. We'll tell her. We'll tell her about her great-grandmother who survived Saigon, about her grandmother who learned to be strong, about her mother who refused to let hate win. That's her inheritance. Not just blood, but courage. Ryan's father visited the next day. He'd divorced Diane immediately after the arrest and had been trying to rebuild relationships with his children. I'm sorry, he told Sophie. I should have seen what she was doing. I should have protected you. You're here now, Sophie said. That's what matters. The trial came 4 months after Mai was born. I sat in the courtroom every day, watching as witnesses testified. The 3 previous daughters-in-law all came forward. One had been pushed down the stairs. Another had been locked in a room for hours. The third had been threatened at gunpoint to sign divorce papers. The forensic accountant walked the jury through the embezzlement scheme. Diane had been stealing from the foundation for years, using the money to maintain her lifestyle after her husband cut her allowance. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, I watched Diane's face remain blank. No remorse. No understanding of what she'd done wrong. The judge sentenced her to 23 years for assault, kidnapping, attempted murder, and federal hate crimes, plus another 12 years for embezzlement to run consecutively. 35 years total. She'd be 92 when she got out. Kyle received 12 years for his role in the assault and kidnapping. That evening, our family gathered at Sophie and Ryan's house. Helen made pho, teaching Ryan how to properly prepare the herbs and sauces. Mai slept in a cradle that Ryan had built himself. He'd asked me to teach him woodworking, wanting to learn the skills my father had passed down. "You know what the best part is?" Sophie said, nursing Mai while we ate. "She gets to grow up knowing all her cultures, Vietnamese, American, everything, no shame. No one telling her she's not enough." Ryan squeezed her hand. "We're thinking of starting a foundation, using what's left of the legitimate Thornton money to help families dealing with racist abuse, legal fees, counseling, whatever they need. We want to call it the Mai Foundation, for new beginnings." Helen raised her glass of tea. "Dad would have loved that, fighting fires wherever you find them." I looked around the table. My daughter, healing and strong. My grandson-in-law, who'd chosen love over blood. My sister, who'd fought the system from within. And Mai, sleeping peacefully, unaware that she'd already changed the world just by existing. "To family," I said. "The ones we're born with, and the ones we choose." "To family," everyone echoed. Later, after everyone had left, I held Mai while Sophie rested. I whispered to her in Vietnamese the same words my mother had whispered to me. "Con gai ơi, con la tung lai." You are the future. You are brave. You are loved. And nothing, no hate, no fear. No one can ever take that from you. Mai opened her eyes, dark, alert, already curious about the world. She wrapped her tiny fingers around mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Helen. "Tom just called. They found evidence Diane was planning to target other interracial families in Portland. She had a list. The FBI is contacting all of them now. Sophie's testimony is helping save others." I looked down at Mai. "Your mother is a hero," I told her. "And you're going to grow up knowing that fighting for what's right isn't always easy, but it's always worth it." 3 years later, I was at Mai's 3rd birthday party when Sophie pulled me aside. She was pregnant again, a boy this time. Ryan had been promoted to partner at his firm and donated half his salary to the Mai Foundation. They'd helped 18 families so far with legal fees and relocation costs. "Mom, I want to show you something." Sophie led me to her home office. On the wall was a framed photo of my mother, young and hopeful, newly arrived in America. Next to it was a photo of me and Sophie, and next to that a photo of Sophie, Ryan, and Mai. 3 generations, Sophie said. 3 generations of women who refuse to be broken. I want Mai to see this every day, to know where she comes from, to know that courage is our inheritance. I hugged my daughter, this warrior who'd survived the worst and built something beautiful from the ashes. "Your grandmother would be so proud." "I am proud," Sophie said. "Of all of us, we didn't just survive, Mom, we won." And she was right. We had won. Not just because Diane Thornton was in prison, not just because the legal system had finally worked, but because we'd refused to let hate define us. We'd chosen love and family and justice. We'd chosen to fight back. That night, reading Mai her bedtime story, I thought about everything we'd been through. The fear, the anger, the pain, but also the strength, the solidarity, the victory. Mai looked up at me with those curious eyes. "Gigi, why do you always cry when you read to me?" I wiped my eyes. "Because I'm happy, sweetheart. Because you're here. Because you're loved. Because the world is going to be better for you than it was for your great-grandmother, or me, or even your mom. Because we're brave? Yes, baby. Because we're brave. And because we stand together." She smiled and snuggled closer. "I love you, Gigi. I love you too, Mai. More than all the stars in the sky." As she drifted off to sleep, I thought about my mother's journey from Saigon, about everything she'd sacrificed so I could have a better life, about everything I'd fought for so Sophie could have the same. And now, about everything Sophie had endured so Mai could grow up free, That's the inheritance that matters, not blood purity or family lines or any of the things Diane Thornton thought were important, but courage, resilience, the refusal to accept injustice. My mother used to say, "The river doesn't stop flowing because there are rocks in its path. It finds a way around or it wears the rocks down." We'd worn down the rocks, and the river kept flowing. For all the children who would come after, for every family that had ever been told they weren't good enough. We'd won, and we'd make sure the victory lasted.